how's the thing? Yeah, what are you doing?
I'm just relaxing, because, you know, I've had exams and I just need to take this time off.
What happened to that job I sent you? What about Scalar?
I've got no idea.
Really? You lost it?
No, that's not all at all what happened.
So what did?
Classified information, you have to have security level Adam to access it.
I'm your boss.
And do you have security level Adam?
No, there's no such
And
thing.
you do not have access to said information.
If you weren't the only option for this job, I'd fire you.
Good thing about that then. So why'd you show up?
Well, I was going to ask you about how the video was going, considering it's been 4 months. But as you don't even have the game, I might as well just give you the one we got yesterday.
Another one?
That's what I said, dimwit. Here.
Boof. Godzilla Unleashed? Hey, there was a new Godzilla movie that came out recently.
Well, that's fitting then. Now get on it. I've got stuff to do. And please actually do it this time.
I was!
Sure. Also, what are you even playing? Your controller keeps sweating.
Godzilla Unleashed is a 3D fighting game developed by Pipeworks Software and published by Atari, which came out in late 2007 on Wii and PS2, with a 2.5D side-scroller made for the DS. Unleashed is a sequel to its 2 predecessors, Save the Earth and Destroy All Monsters Melee, and runs off similar mechanics, though I really can't say as I haven't played either.
From what I can tell, there was a lot of hype for this game, with IGN even publishing a blog dedicated to it.
Adam, where's the milk?
Shut up! However, upon looking at reception for Unleashed, seems people didn't like this game. Although it did manage to outsell its 2 predecessors at 800,000 units. That's not a lot. That's not a lot at all.
The opening cinematic is pretty standard. It shows off various bits and bobs about the game and how it will play out, as well as being accompanied by a okay musical piece. It doesn't exactly do its job of getting me hyped to play the game, but it's alright, I guess. Once we're given a friendly reminder about the game we're playing,
Godzilla Unleashed.
it's time to start actually doing so. We've got a choice between story, brawl, training, store, and options. Considering our relatively limited character selection in brawl, let's just go with the story mode and... ooh dear. Each character has specific criteria attached to it that needs to be fulfilled in order to unlock them. Unfortunately, unlocked means available in the store for purchase through the use of points.
This is a stupid idea.
Considering the tasks needed to unlock monsters can only be done by playing story mode, it requires the player to be very specific with the playthroughs, as well as replay it several times. The fact the player has to then save up points to purchase them with is just insult to injury and poor design, considering how expensive the monsters can be to purchase.
The worst part is, I even looked through the manual and it tells you nothing about how to unlock these characters. So, I cheated. And this is not something I'll normally do, might I add, but... take notes, there's the code.
Considering our outstanding choice of 3 characters, I might as well just be Godzilla because that's the game we're playing right now. There are a bunch of stats by each character, but this is the only place that they show up and they don't really affect how each monster plays anyway. So the plot is that gigantic alien crystals fell from the sky and start messing about with the ecosystem. Tokyo floods, Sydney freezes over, Seattle undergoes volcanic eruptions, San Francisco gets hit with earthquakes, London is floating, and in Osaka, well, let's just say someone had a lot of beans the night before, because a bunch of crystals crash on Monster Island and Godzilla gets a little bit bothered about it, like, I guess.
I don't get what his motivations are either, as they're never explained, since cutscenes focus on this small select group of humans who are utterly boring. This story is a mess!
Sounds kinda like the new Godzilla.
Now, you may be wondering, Spirit of Randomness, you magnificent, glorious, beautiful human...
Get on with it.
Sorry. How do these cutscenes play out? Illustrated panels, of course.
It kind of worked with Sonic's storybook series, but that's only because the games are literally based around books, and the illustrations fit the style.
This is not a game based around a book. I wouldn't even be this annoyed if they bothered to sync up the subtitles correctly.
Does that answer your question?
Check on the monsters. Those meteors may have damaged the force field barriers.
My mother can do this job better than you!
Not to mention the overall presentation itself. It's not pretty by any sense of the word. Animations are good enough, but a lot just come off as ridiculous because we're meant to be playing a giant monster game and they're able to pull off stupid moves like this. Graphics are significantly low quality and look like they were made from early in the previous generation. The frame rate is also inconsistent as all heck, which makes no sense as there's never really enough going on to justify the drop. Audio wise, the game isn't too spectacular either. Sound effects are good enough, but I could swear I've heard a couple of them elsewhere. The music, while not terribly made, is pretty forgettable. To be honest, there are only a couple of good tracks and they just never stuck in my mind. So our job is to escape Monster Island, and we do that by breaking things and running into the sea. Thus, I won. Now to San Francisco! A new crystal type has popped up and the Global Defense farts send out their Mogera unit to deal with it. Of course it gets corrupted by the crystal's power and you've got to hit it until it don't work no more. This is your first fight and hey, let's go over controls. You have your punches, you have your kicks, you have your tail slaps, lasers, fireballs, blocks, dashing, jumps, grabs, throws, and oh my word, this game is really freaking complicated. Which is more than I was expecting, and this is just with Godzilla. Some characters can fly and will have different beam weapons and even a kill everything move. Oh yeah, and the throws are also different for each character and they can get a bit... Yeesh. Prepare for your examinations, sir! Now, it's all well and good having this in-depth fighting system, but actually controlling the monsters? Yeah, not so good. To perform almost every move requires the player to hold down a button and swing the Wiimote in one of 4 directions.
Sounds like an okay idea, until you remember, this game was around before Motion Plus was invented. Which means the controls are about as responsive as a hibernating bear covered in honey.
Gestures either fail to register or go off in a completely different direction. Attacks have stupidly long wind-up times and you can't even hold down the button to make things easier. A lot of the time, fights ended up with me wildly flailing my arms in an attempt to try and get a move to hit.
It's a problem a lot of Wii games have when it comes to combat. Instead of button mashing, it's all...
This is also where we're introduced to the faction choice thing. This means there's 2 ways to go about this type of mission. A, beat the monster and take the power surge for yourself to use later on in the campaign, or B, go around smashing the power crystals. In the end, it really just comes down to, do I want to fight this guy or can I be bothered? Due to the aforementioned wonky controls, the general consensus with me is to just go with the crystal smashing option. Also, breaking crystals fills a red meter by the monster's HUD. Once it gets to full, the monster goes into critical mass, growing in size and getting red Tron lines all over for a limited time. This mode is only active as long as the red bar is full, but ends up adding strategy due to the fact that it increases attack and endurance but takes down general defense. Which is nice because it can make a lot of the more boring fights interesting and over quicker. The rest of the story is pretty much the same, with missions just repeating themselves over and over again. Along with a couple of boss fights like a giant crystal, an alien mothership, and a drill submarine. That's it. And you don't even have to fight the mothership. Just kick this dude's butt and you'll be all done. For boss fights, they're pretty pathetic and they don't provide the challenge and scope one would expect from a giant monster battle game. Also, due to the different routes one can take, the story can get stupidly inconsistent. For example, in one cutscene, a doctor by the name of Shirogami accidentally creates the monster Biollante. The mission briefing even states that a new mutant could appear. Biollante didn't show up once in my entire playthrough, and even worse than that, Dr. Shirogami then reappears in the very next cutscene, despite the fact that he quite clearly dies when Biollante was created.
What is happening? What have I unleashed?
Did I mention stereotypes? Because this game has them. Whenever you select a new area in story mode, a pretty offensive, accented person comes off and starts reading. So of course, when we move to London, we've got... Hang on a minute.
Out of where are you going? Out of stop.
This is an injustice!
What were you doing on a hill?
I don't know.
The only other plot significant things that happen are that some dude with a grudge against monsters, for no explained reason I might add, gets his mind corrupted by crystals and goes rogue in the drill submarine ship thing, and then Space Godzilla shows up out of nowhere and it turns out he's the completely obvious cause for the crystal showing up. Seriously, there was no doubt that this guy had at least a hand in this situation. Look at his shoulders! He has the crystal! Trying to pass this guy off as the mystery main villain was a complete waste of time. It was really obvious it was going to be Space Godzilla as soon as he not so subtly shows up in the freaking intro. Anyway, I beat Space Godzilla and I am appointed Saviour of Earth. Followed up by a pretty nice credit sequence with some character animations playing in the background. It's better than most credit sequences. I don't know.
This is the end of the campaign, and I'd like to comment that it was pretty terrible.
The story was terrible, the characters were flat and boring, the cutscenes were a joke, and the missions were generic and overly repeated. The wonky controls made it more of a chore to sit through, and it's not even worth doing multiple times with the character because there's cheat codes for that.
Thankfully, that's not all Godzilla Unleashed has to offer, as we've actually got a fair few amount of options with the multiplayer mode. But considering I don't have anyone to play with, it's not really much of a point in me doing it, is there? Hang on a minute. Josh. You busy? I need a hand. How dare you! Well, alrighty then.
Well, we've got 4 game modes: Versus, Classic Melee, Classic Destruction, and Last Man Standing, as well as 4 other slots for custom games if you want to. The classic games rely on gaining points through breaking buildings or monsters, whereas the other 2 are just straight up fights between players or the computer. The only difference being that the Versus has a best of 3 structure and Last Man Standing is literally that. Personally, Last Man Standing is my favourite mode, as only playing as one monster for more than one round just gets tedious. With custom games you can change various bits and bobs about the game and can end up with some pretty entertaining results. But modes are all that's really different, as the single player is basically a mission-based multiplayer. I feel I gotta give credit to some of the arenas, as they're pretty large and open and give you ample space to beat the living daylights out of each other in the city itself, though the latter is far less satisfying because the destruction physics are, well, rubbish.
There is the plus of being able to throw small buildings at each other.
Yes, you heard me right. You can pick up small buildings, completely ignoring all laws of physics I might add, and throw them at your opponents.
With all that said and done, Godzilla Unleashed is not a good game.
Graphics are bad, sound is good but forgettable, controls are temperamental at best, I've already said what's wrong with the story, and the work needed to unlock characters, like sitting through the campaign multiple times, isn't worth it when there's such an easy way to get out of it.
By all accounts, I really should hate this game, but I don't.
While I find the single player a chore to sit through, the multiplayer makes up for it, and it's a really fun game to play with friends, even if you've got no idea what you're doing.
If you see this game going cheap, then I'd recommend it, but only if you've got friends to play it with, otherwise it's pretty much a pointless purchase. What do you think about it, Josh?
Yeah.
Good enough.
Agent Spirit, who on earth is that person?
Oh my word, it's a seal.
Well observed, pitiful human.
I'm gonna pet him.
I wouldn't.
I'm definitely gonna pet him.
Dude, no! Was that really necessary?
Yes, he was going to pet me.
You're really scary, you know that.
There's a reason why I'm the boss.
Right, anyway, now that's done, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go check the dishwasher, because reasons.
You're weird.
Boss!
Yeah? What?
This game just made it through a wash cycle.
You put not just a video game, but a potentially dangerous object in the dishwasher.
Long story, but the point is nothing happened.
Yes, I realised. I may not know a lot about video games, but I do know they're not meant to meet water. I think we need to analyse this.
Yeah. Hey, what's up everybody, Spirit Animus here. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, then like it, and if you wanna leave a comment telling me what you liked and thought I could improve on, then go ahead. I'm completely open to criticism, especially after this long. I'm so sorry. You want to see more from me, then subscribe, because there will be new stuff coming in the future. This is my first video of this kind of style. It would take a bit longer than most to come out, but there's definitely going to be more, and now that I'm getting the hang of things, it should come out much quicker. If you also want to see more of me right now, then, well, check out my good friend Josh's channel here, Bourbon King. We do a series called Zant and Girahim. It's kind of like an abridged series, but not. Yeah. I'm Girahim. And that kind of wrote the first season. But yeah, he's writing the second one, which is coming out soon, actually. And if you want to see me play games with my stupid friends and myself being stupid, then Cyberfish Cake's right here. And Owen Chad's, he's right there. Click on these. They'll appreciate it, and so will I. But yeah, Twitter, Facebook, you know the deal. This usually share what's going on these, although at the time of recording I haven't actually made the Facebook page yet. That's gonna be a thing. See you guys next time! Hopefully next time isn't 7 months. Good lord, I suck at punctuality.